Our next Final Four video is Family Huddle versus the Babe and I. Enjoy.
Family Huddle by Peyton, Eli, and Archie Manning. The Mannings are the most famous family in football. Peyton and Eli Manning are both star quarterbacks. They have led their teams to victory in the Super Bowl and won MVP trophies. Their older brother Cooper was an all-state wide receiver in high school and received a football scholarship to the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. And their father, Archie, was a star quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Football has always been a big deal in the Manning family. Here is a family huddle written by Peyton, Eli, and Archie Manning. The picture book is based on some of the Mannings' family and football memories from their days in Louisiana and Mississippi. Archie was in the front yard in New Orleans playing with his three sons, Cooper, Peyton, and Eli. It was Peyton's turn at their favorite game, Amazing Catches. "Go deep," called Archie. It was the boys' favorite play. Peyton ran full speed across the lawn. His dad threw the ball high and far. Peyton dived and caught the ball in his fingertips. He rolled to a stop in the grass, and his brothers cheered. The neighbor's dog licked his face. Olivia, their mom, was laughing on the front porch. "Nice catch, Peyton. You boys come in and wash up before we go. This weekend is going to be filled with family and football." "All right, boys, let's wrap it up," said Dad. "Come on, just one more play," shouted Eli. "I'll be the quarterback. Fade route." Once the car was packed, the boys stood together by the driveway. The football was hidden under Peyton's arm. As their mom and dad headed toward the car, Peyton handed the ball to Eli. Peyton and Cooper ran toward their parents, distracting them. Eli ran the ball into the back seat of the car. It was perfect. Quarterback sneak. It was a long drive to Drew, Mississippi, where Archie's mom lived. The boys liked playing sports trivia names to pass the time. This one was called Numbers Game. 34, said Cooper, sitting in the back seat with his brothers. Peyton thought about it and came up with a football player whose jersey wore number 34. "Walter Payton," he said. Next was Peyton's turn. 8. Before Cooper could answer, Eli called out, "My age and Dad's number." Cooper and Eli laughed out loud. They played the numbers game over and over again. Archie stopped a block from his mom's small brick house to let the boys run the rest of the way. "Grandma Sis," they called. Their grandma heard them coming. She put down her knitting needles and picked up a plate full of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. She stepped outside and could see them zigzagging as they threw the football to each other. "Hi, boys," said Grandma Sis. "There's plenty of cookies for everyone." After lunch, everyone went outside for a group photograph. Olivia hugged the boys and said, "As long as you look out for each other, you'll always be on a winning team." The boys giggled, and then Eli hollered to Cooper and Peyton, "Button hook." Then he took off across the yard. Peyton smiled as Cooper snapped the ball back to him. He knew this play. "Get open, Eli," he shouted. It looked like Eli would run clear into the next lawn. Suddenly, he planted his foot and turned in towards his brothers. "Hit me, Pate," he said. Peyton fired the pass. It was a perfect pass and a perfect catch, but Eli's foot landed in a puddle. Cooper and Peyton cracked up as Eli did a muddy dance. Later that afternoon, they joined a football game near the town's fire station. It was Peyton's turn at quarterback. Peyton handed the ball off to a teammate for a runaround, but the play did not work. The team lost yards. Peyton looked over at the old fire truck and remembered his mother's words. He then looked at Cooper and Eli. "Eli, this one's for you," Peyton said. "Ring the alarm." They ran the hook and ladder play. Cooper was the best receiver, so he got the tricky part. Once the ball was snapped, he ran down the side of the field. Peyton hit him with a short pass. Cooper saw the defense coming his way. No one noticed little Eli running up behind him. Just as Cooper was being tackled, he flipped the ball back to Eli. "Go, Eli," he shouted. Eli caught the ball and ran for the touchdown. Early the next morning, Grandma Sis made silver dollar pancakes with blueberry syrup for breakfast. After the boys helped with the dishes and said their goodbyes, they piled back into the car to visit their other grandparents in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The boys slept most of the way there. As the car pulled into the driveway, Archie honked the horn. Their grandparents were standing on the big front porch waiting for them. "Gan Gan," they shouted to their grandmother. "Papa," they called to their grandfather. Soon, the boys were in the front yard. Eli was already on the bike he liked to ride around town. His brothers were getting ready to follow him when the postman came by with the mail. Eli pointed to the postman and hollered to them, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Cooper and Peyton didn't need to say a word. They'd come up with their own hand signals for some football plays. This was one of them, the post pattern. Peyton pressed his fingers together and made a slashing motion with his hand. He motioned at an angle toward the far side of the yard. Cooper took off using all of his speed. He ran straight at first. Just as Peyton released a rainbow pass, Cooper cut in at an angle towards the center of the field. He stretched out his hands and caught the ball. Eli watched everything from his bike. He laughed when he heard Cooper call out, "The postman always delivers." When they returned to their grandparents' house, their mom was waiting on the porch. "Hurry and get ready. We have a long drive ahead of us." They said goodbye to Gan Gan and Papa. "We'll be back soon," they said, waving their hands. Eli, Peyton, and Cooper piled into the back seat. 13, said Eli. "That's easy." "Dan Marino," said Peyton. The numbers game started again. It was just getting dark when they got home. Their dad got out of the driver's seat. "I've got an idea," he said. "Why don't we finish that game?" "Not too long," said Mom. "It's almost supper time." The boys looked over. Somehow, their dad had gotten his hands on a football. "Family huddle," Archie called. Eli, Peyton, and Cooper ran over to him and linked arms together and listened to the play. "Break on one," their dad said. And they did. The brothers smiled and sprinted across the yard. Their mom was right. They were on a winning team. The end.
Hey, this is Mr. A. Today I'm reading The Babe and I. The Babe and I by David A. Alder, illustrated by Terry Widner. For my birthday, I was hoping my parents would give me a bicycle. They only gave me a dime. I was disappointed but not surprised. It was 1932, in the midst of the Great Depression, and millions of people were out of work. We were lucky. My father had a job, but we never seemed to have much money. Where we lived in the Bronx, New York, everyone was poor. "Happy birthday," Dad said when I walked him outside. I watched him go off, carrying his briefcase and smiling. My neighbor Jacob was tossing a ball and catching it. He threw it to me and shouted, "Give me a high one. I'm Babe Ruth, the world's greatest baseball player." I threw the ball and Jacob reached up. It bounced off his hands. He was no Babe Ruth. We played for a while and then Jacob said, "I have to go to work. Come with me. We can have a catch while we walk." A few blocks from home we passed a woman selling apples. Her clothes were wrinkled and shabby. I gave her my birthday dime and bought 2 apples, one for me and one for Jacob. I was glad to be rid of the dime. It reminded me of the present I didn't get. We turned onto Webster Avenue, and there were more apple sellers. Near the next corner, I saw a large briefcase. I looked up, and there was Dad, selling apples like the others. Suddenly, I couldn't move. "Come on," Jacob said. I pointed. "Oh," he whispered. "I thought your dad had a job." "So did I, and Mom thinks so too." There were tears in my eyes as I watched people pass my father. I wished so much someone would buy an apple from him, but no one did. I realized how he had earned my birthday dime, and I was sorry I had spent it. "I have to get to work," Jacob whispered. I was too dazed to know where we were going. I just followed Jacob until we came to a small building. "My dad is out of work too," Jacob said as he got out in line. "That's why I'm a newsie. Sell newspapers with me. It's fun." I didn't feel like going home, so I stayed with Jacob. We collected our papers, and he said, "Now I'll teach you how to really sell." We walked past a newsie on the corner. "Coney Island fire," he called out. 1,000 homeless. Read all about it." There were lots of people around, but I didn't see anyone buy a newspaper. Jacob and I passed other newsies calling out about the fire. Then we walked beyond the busy streets and apartment buildings. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You'll see," Jacob said. We walked until we came to an elevated train station. People were rushing from it to the large ballpark just ahead. "We're here," Jacob said. "That's Yankee Stadium." I held up one of my newspapers and called out the headline, "Coney Island fire. Read all about it." "No," Jacob said. "No one here's interested in fires." He picked up a newspaper and looked through it. "Here it is," he said. "This is what they want." "Babe Ruth hits home run," he called out. "Read all about it." "The Babe hits number 25. Read all about it." "Here, I'll take one," a man said, and gave Jacob 2 cents. "Let me see that," another man said. Jacob was smart. These people were on their way to see a Yankee game. Of course they were interested in Babe Ruth. "Babe Ruth hits home run," I called out. "Read all about it." Jacob and I quickly sold all our papers. When we left the stadium, coins in my pocket made a nice jingling sound. We went back to the small building and paid a penny for each paper we had sold. That left me with 25 cents. When I got home, I didn't tell Mom about Dad and the apples, but I told her about my job. She put the coins I had earned into our money jar and said, "Don't say anything to your father about the newspapers. It might embarrass him to know you're helping out." Later, Dad came home and put some coins in the jar. He took off his shoes, stretched out on the couch, and said, "I was really busy at the office today. I'm tired." I wanted to tell him that he didn't have to pretend he still had his job, but I couldn't. I just looked at Dad's briefcase and wondered what he had in there. The next day, Jacob and I called out about Babe Ruth again. He had hit his 26th home run. I quickly sold my newspapers. I knew I could have sold more, if only I had some way to get them to the stadium. When I got home, I searched the basement of our building for a wagon or anything with wheels. All I found were boxes and a torn suitcase. Just before I went back upstairs, I saw Mrs. Johnson pushing her baby in a carriage. "Could I borrow that?" I asked her. "Why?" she asked. "You don't have a baby." I told her about the newspapers. "I suppose so," Mrs. Johnson said, thinking. "But this would have to be a business arrangement. With my carriage, you'll make extra money, so I should make some too." She offered to rent the carriage to me for 10 cents an afternoon, and I agreed. On Monday, the front page story was about a 19-year-old boy who had robbed a telegraph office because he wanted to be arrested. He knew he would get something to eat in jail. Jacob and I didn't call out about the boy. We called out about Babe Ruth. He had won a game for the Yankees with a hit in the 12th inning. Thanks to Mrs. Johnson's carriage, I sold lots of papers. I had 80 cents to give Mom for the money jar. When Dad came home, he gave Mom a bottle of milk and a bag of apples and said, "I bought the apples from an unemployed man I passed on my way home." "Dad," I said, "that man isn't unemployed. Selling apples is a job." "No, it's not," he said sharply. "It's just what you do while you wait and hope for something better." He looked upset, and I realized how important it was for him to keep his secret. On Tuesday, Jacob and I called out, "Babe Ruth collapses, read all about it." And on Wednesday, "Babe Ruth stays home." He had hurt his leg, and doctors told him he wouldn't be able to play for 3 weeks. That night, Dad asked me to walk with him. When we were a few blocks from home, he said, "Today I saw you pushing Mrs. Johnson's baby carriage. I spoke with her, and she told me about the newspapers." "I'm just trying to help, Dad." He said, "I know." Dad held my hand firmly. We walked quietly for a while. Then Dad asked, "Were you ever on Webster Avenue?" "Once." He squeezed my hand. Tears were rolling down his cheeks. "I didn't tell Mom," I said. Dad didn't say anything after that. I didn't either. We just walked. The next day, Jacob and I called out, "Babe Ruth sits with fans. Read all about it." "Here, kid, I'll take one." A tall man gave me a $5 bill. "I'm sorry," I told him. "I can't change that." "That's okay, kid. Keep the change." I just looked at the money. I couldn't believe anyone would pay that much for a newspaper. Jacob ran to me. "Do you know who that was?" he asked. "You sold a paper to Babe Ruth." In the pictures I had seen of Babe Ruth, he was wearing his baseball uniform. I didn't recognize him without it. "Wow," I said. "I just sold a paper to Babe Ruth." I kept one hand in my pocket, holding on to Babe Ruth's bill. With my other hand, I sold newspapers, and I kept looking across the street toward where Babe Ruth had gone. When all our papers were sold, I pointed to Yankee Stadium and told Jacob, "I'm going over there." I needed to see Babe Ruth again. I checked the prices and realized I could buy 2 tickets and still have plenty money left for the money jar. So that's what I did. The stadium was noisy. Jacob and I walked through a short tunnel and saw a large baseball field. Babe Ruth was in the Yankee dugout with his teammates. When the game started, he stayed there. I guess his legs still hurt. I tried to watch everything: the pitcher, the catcher, the batter, the players on the field, and Babe Ruth. Near the end of the game, with the score tied, the Yankee catcher didn't come up to bat. Out came Babe Ruth. Everyone shouted and waved. I think I cheered the loudest. "He paid for my tickets," I told the man next to us. "He gave me $5 so I could see the game." The man smiled. I think the Red Sox pitcher was afraid Babe Ruth would hit a home run. He purposely threw wide of the plate 4 times and walked the Babe. We cheered again as Babe Ruth slowly walked to first base. We knew he couldn't hit a home run every time, but at least the Babe was back. Babe Ruth was part of the 1932 Yankees. That year they were the best team in baseball. He and I were a team too. His home runs helped me sell newspapers. As I left Yankee Stadium with the coins I had earned making that nice jingling sound in my pocket, I knew Dad and I were also a team. We were both working to get our family through hard times. I hope you enjoyed both books. Don't forget to vote, and let's see who makes it to the championship matchup.